Here comes Scully! Yeah! Come on, come on! You get a bullet, and you get a bullet! Everybody gets a bullet!
Do you remember that Killing Floor 2 had a crossover at one point? Way back in the day of early access, in the Incinerate and Detonate update, Tripwire revealed some crossover content with their other game Red Orchestra 2 and also the most popular medieval FPS by Torn Banner, Chivalry, which if you remember from my Mirage video, it's a gory game with a lot of screaming. Well, with both crossovers, if you owned the game it would provide you with a new character, Red Orchestra's being a Nazi and Chivalry's being a wannabe knight. But also, the Chivalry pack included more than just a character. It also included a weapon, and back in the day I highly praised this weapon for being one of the best Berserker weapons of all time. However, over time, Tripwire ended up changing things up a bit. Yes, the weapon I'm talking about is the Zweihander, a name I probably just butchered, but basically it's a big old claymore. The Zweihander is a tier 3 heavy melee weapon featuring a slow swing rate with a heavy hit. Well, it was a heavy hit, like I mentioned earlier. This weapon has gone through some changes over time, with both the weapon speed and the damage per swing being nerfed, which to be fair was needed as the sword was originally pretty broken. With the Zweihander being a bladed melee weapon, the weapon includes 3 variations of impact, a medium and heavy swing, and a jab. The jab being the weakest of all, dealing up to damage of roughly 63, however piercing the head at the right time can be an instant head explosion, or removal depending on how you look at it. But this will only really work on basic Zeds. Higher Zeds like Husks and Flesh Pounds and Scrakes, it's a little bit trickier. A medium swing will give you damage up to 85, and finally the heavy swing dealing a whopping damage of up to 195, but with a very slow swing rate. Now you might have noticed that it just says up to a certain amount of damage. Well, it all depends on where you're hitting the Zeds. Similar to bullets, impact will vary depending on the swing of the sword. Unfortunately, a major drawback though with the Zweihander has to be the sluggish feel with the swing of the weapon. It feels too slow for the fast-paced environment that the game brings, but the satisfaction for slicing a Zed in two and decapitating a Siren is often a nice way to soften the curve. Originally, when using the Zweihander, I was using the perk that gave health back on kill. However, the alternative ability which allows you to buff yourself upon a parry is much more beneficial towards this weapon in particular. Weapons like the Crovel or the Katana, you can use the other skill and have more of a chance to keep yourself alive. With myself saying that, it was a bit of trouble getting used to not having health back via kills, but you still get health back via just running around, and also if you have the Z time perk at level 25. Or you could just run around and wait for your health to come back, but it means the game will last a lot longer. So as before, I have my 3 trusty 3-set questions to ask with regards to each weapon throughout the series, with the first being how effective is the Zweihander against the basic Zeds? Well, for your basic cannon fodder, the Zweihander will cut through Zeds like it would cut through butter, of course without breaking the table. When it comes to husks and bloats, you may take an extra swing, but if you hit just at the right time with a heavy swing, you will have no problem whatsoever. It's also worth mentioning that this will pretty much destroy the armor of a Rider with no problem. A simple bash to the head will knock the head clean off, or sometimes just the helmet. From there, what about Scrakes and Flesh Pound? Well, similar to the prior, the Zweihander will have no trouble tackling a Scrake or Flesh Pound. However, you will need to learn to parry if you want to take full advantage of this weapon. If you have the perk enabled, when you get a successful parry, you'll get a brief weapon speed increase, reduced damage taken, and increased damage given, basically giving you an even playing field when you're going up against them. Just remember to keep an eye on your health though, or you will most likely die. And finally, how is the Zweihander against the final boss? Well, unfortunately with this one I accidentally tricked myself at first. Going against the Abomination again, I discovered that the Zweihander will make any type of armor as bitch, especially the helmet. But then when you go to actually attack the flesh, yeah, the difference in damage against it is quite a big one. It's not horrendous, but when you compare it to something as easy as killing a Flesh Pound and a Scrake, there's a lot of difference. You might want to think about taking another weapon, maybe the Bone Crusher if you want to be up close and personal, or the Eviscerator if you want a bit of a distance. Being against the Abomination with its creatures, you will notice your health dropping like mad, so you will need to run about a bit. To give you a rundown of each boss, if you're going against the Abomination, expect to run more than before. Hands, get prepared to parry like never before. No one gives a shit about the King Flesh Pound anyway because it's easy, and then the Patriarch, well, you would have to hope for the best with that one. Overall, the Zweihander isn't a bad sword. It's actually quite a nice and satisfying sword to use compared to the Katana, which is a more fast-paced version, but comparing it to when it first came out to now, it's not as good as it used to be. But it does bring up the question of why don't we have more bladed weapons in the game? I would personally love to see the Dwarf's Axe return, because it was one of the best weapons in Killing Floor 1. Hell, I would even have a little dual-wielding axe or dual-wielding blade for a little bit of fast-paced, low-damage action, but it depends what they're going with Berserker. The new weapon coming out with the Tesla Grip does look interesting, and hopefully that will be much more fun, but we do have the Bone Crusher for the time being. Same as before, if there's any weapon you'd like me to discuss next, please let me know. If there's anything you want to let me know about, if I've missed something. Besides that, my name is Sir Crackerbulb, and I'm signing out.